Hello, my name is Tiffany, and right now I don't want to be um, showing myself right now physically, so that's why this is, I've turned the camera off of myself to do my testimony, and I'll explain to you why in the video. This is part one of my testimony. The Word of God says that we overcome the enemy by the blood of Jesus, by the blood of the Lamb, and the word of our testimony. So that is exactly why I am sharing what happened to me with you. My name is Tiffany. I am 46 years old, and it is now August 2017. And back in March of 2015, I believe that when I was an unsaved heathen living in sin, very much in sin, that I was ritualized by a witch's coven. I believe that my body was used to do a blood sacrifice. So I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. I'm going to divide it up into several parts so that it doesn't go on and on and on and on and on forever. So back in January of 2015, wait a minute, I'm sorry, 2012, sorry. I'm even a little nervous, as you can tell, and I hate that because I'm not generally a nervous person, but this is just like a really freaky testimony. Back in January of 2012, I had to enter a rehab facility for drug and alcohol abuse. I was abusing some medication that my doctor gave to me to help me with an anxiety disorder that I've always had. Okay, I've got to turn the air on. Sorry, just a second. I'm not doing it. Just not. It's hot. Sorry about that. I had to turn my air on because it's very hot where I live. January 2012, I was in rehab, and there's a whole, this testimony just goes on and on and on. But again, I'm going to try to tell it as gracefully as I can. I went to this rehab reluctantly, although I knew that I needed help. I was actually a nursing student, and I was about halfway through the program, but I'd already developed a serious, horrific, horrible addiction to a powerful anti-anxiety medication that, like I said, I got from my doctor, but I took it inappropriately and got majorly addicted, and I was so mentally and physically sick. I was just a sick person, and I knew I needed help, so I did go to this rehab that my doctor recommended. Now that's a whole other testimony, that in itself, but that's for another time, I guess. But I spent about 60 days at this place getting my body detoxed. I had to drop out of nursing school. I know it's kind of scary that somebody addicted to powerful anti-anxiety medications in nursing school, but that does happen. Although it has nothing to do with me being a nursing student. I had the addiction before I went to nursing school. And I did not like this place. It was like really creepy. The doctors did not know how to do an appropriate drug detox. My symptoms, like you're not supposed to take the patient off the medication like really quick. You're supposed to do a very slow taper. And they did a quick one, and I had horrible rebound symptoms. I mean, I was absolutely out of my mind because of how inappropriately they tried to detox me. They didn't know what they were doing. Very unprofessional. I forgive them. I know as a Christian you forgive people, but this is just to give you the background as to what happened to me. So I left early. I left at least a good 30 days early against, you know, the doctor's wishes. They didn't try to stop me though, which I thought was weird, because you can legally stop a patient from leaving rehab. You can say that they're not, you can Baker Act them or Marchman Act them. They didn't do that to me. The day I left, I was cleaning out the room I'd been staying in, and a spider crawled out from the room I had been in. And I thought that was so weird. I hit it with a shoe. You know, I killed it. And I thought it might be a brown recluse, which those can be very poisonous. And I showed another patient, and he agreed with me that it was a brown recluse. So that was a little creepy. But I think that was an omen as to what was going to happen to me. I think in the spirit realm, animals do represent curses and witchcraft and things like that. Now, again, at the time, I was unsaved, I was a heathen, I was an atheist. I had dabbled a little bit in the New Age. I had gone to like yoga. I had gone to a Buddhist temple. I had some books on feng shui. I had crystals. I had gone to Reiki. I had done a little bit of New Age stuff, but I really didn't take it that seriously. I actually thought it was just kind of, okay, when my neighbors quiet down, I'll keep talking. Sorry. Very loud to live in an apartment complex. Sorry. So, so I had, you know, I had crystals, I had incense, I had a little Buddhas and Buddhist shrines in my apartment. I had all this stuff, but again, I really didn't pay it any mind. I didn't really think it was real. It had any spiritual power. I was just kind of doing it more for a trend than anything else. You know, Buddhas are really trendy right now, and crystals and things like that. But I have been in and out of a few New Age stores in LA and in Florida, where I've lived both places. And that was about the extent of my spirituality, which I didn't even attribute or ascribe any spiritual power to it. I had gone to a Methodist church as a little girl, which I renounced when I was about 12 because a friend of mine said she wasn't going to go anymore. And I said, well, I don't want to go either then if you're not going. So I quit going to Methodist church. I had never read a Bible, just completely lost in the world. And I had all these like problems. I had a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. When I got into my 20s, I started to have really bad panic attacks. I was also a flight attendant for one of the airlines that was hijacked in 9/11. And although I don't really think that had a whole lot to do with my problems later on, I think after that happened, whatever I was dealing with initially just got worse. You know, it just made it work. It made the work environment harder, which just added to my, you know, lack of sleep and overworking and weird hours. And so I finally got a hold of some anti-anxiety medication. And that really seemed to help for a while, and but it quickly got out of control, and I ended up quitting the airline and going to nursing school. And you know, like I said, I'll take you back to rehab. So I left early, and I want to stop here for a moment and go back in time again. When I was 25, and this is a very important part of my testimony. Like I said, I had renounced the Methodist church at 12 with a friend of mine because she wasn't going to go. Well, that very same friend, this is weird, the very same friend of mine, my childhood peer that I was friends with for a long time, who said she wasn't going to go to church anymore, and I said, I'm not going. That same friend and her boyfriend at the time, the three of us were hanging out together in our 20s many years later. And as a joke, we went to one of those medieval festivals that are really cheesy and really carnal and really creepy. And if you go to them or participate in them, you need to like never go again. You need to renounce those completely because they are witchcraft. Those people do get into witchcraft, by the way, some of them. So we go to this psychic. There was a psychic there. We were just bored one day. We were hanging out together, the three of us. We're like, well, what can we do for fun? Oh, let's go to this medieval festival. And this really weird lady, a psychic, she called herself a divinator in the Bible. Really pale white lady with real stringy, kind of greasy red hair. and little spectacle glasses, was sitting at this real low little platform table reading palm reader. And she gave me a prophecy, or at the time, a reading, and she said that something very bad was going to happen to me. And I was like, well, that's not a very nice thing to say to somebody. How mean of her. I thought it was just for fun, like I didn't take it seriously. So that always stuck with me throughout the years. If something bad did happen, I'm like, wow, I wonder if that's what the psychic was talking about. I really came into agreement with it. I really believed her. Even though, like I say, I still didn't give spiritual power to stuff. I guess subconsciously I did, because that always stuck with me. So back to rehab many years later, when I'm 40 years old. Again, I had terrible addiction. Really would have just probably ended up dying, to be honest with you, if I hadn't gone there, because I was like close to 100 pounds, very emaciated. They thought I had an eating disorder. I was like getting in fights with people, my own family, just really, those drugs really mess with your whole personality, like really turned me into a different person altogether. It also opened the door to the witchcraft that came into my life too, because pharmakia is a term in the Bible, I believe, and it means witchcraft. Well, I was taking all those pills, which is a form of witchcraft, but I didn't know that. And I went home, and from the rehab, I conned my mom into coming to pick me up early, even though I was not in any way, shape, or form well enough to be out of an institution, a psychiatric institution. I was just really still crazy from all the drug abuse and all the horrible withdrawal symptoms. But I wanted to get some help on my own. I didn't really like the care I was getting. So I left, and I stayed at my parents' house at the time, and I was having really bad anxiety, rebound symptoms, which is where the anxiety comes back on you even worse, to the point of just really, like, I was very morose. I was crying a lot. I was having major panic attacks early in the morning. And my mom tried to take me back to a hospital to help me, and I wouldn't go. I resisted her. She didn't know what to do to help me. I said, look, let me just take this into my own hands. Let me make an appointment with an acupuncturist. And so I found this really weird guy online, total random person, don't know him, nobody referred him to me, for a so-called, what I thought was going to be an acupuncture treatment. So when I called that day to get help, because I thought maybe, I learned about acupuncture in nursing school. Sometimes cancer patients use it when medications don't work, or sometimes to treat pain symptoms. I thought, let me try this. In the meantime, I had set up a doctor's appointment with an addiction doctor, some psychiatrist specialized in addiction medicine, and she ended up giving me a medication to help me sleep at night. And that did help me overcome the rest of my drug withdrawal, and I was okay then. But I hadn't seen her yet. I had to wait on that appointment. And I go to this guy, answer the phone when I called to make the appointment for the acupuncture. He could see me like that day, and I was desperate. I was in a bad way. I'm like, please, can you see me? Can you help me? I need something to help me. So, and he was giving me a little bit of a shady vibe. He kept calling me hun or honey or something like that. And I thought, okay, that's making me a little creepy. But, I didn't have to take off my clothes to get an acupuncture treatment. So I thought, as long as I don't have to disrobe, it'll be okay, even if he's a little weird. So I took off. I went up to this little hole in the wall type place near this health food store that my family and I have always eaten at over the years. It's a popular local health food store. So I thought, okay, this is in a decent area. It's health oriented. And I'm expecting the person to be a little weird anyhow, because it's an alternative type of treatment. I'd never had acupuncture before, and I just expected the guy to be a little odd. So he was. When I got out of the car, though, to go inside, once I found the place, I couldn't find the door because it was mirrored. All I could see was my own reflection. I couldn't find the actual door handle. What was weird is this lady came up from behind me when I was actually about to leave because I couldn't find the door. I thought, well, never mind, I'll just go home. Well, this lady came out literally from behind me, and she's like waving me down, hey, it's right there. The door's right there. Go in there. Real persistent with me, I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, So I go inside, and when I walked in the door, it was a hole in the wall, a little small